Hello there, I'm Tim and he's John and this is How to Murder Time, a podcast about games and things.
Hello everybody.
Watcher.
Hello. We're back.
We're back for 3 weeks, yeah, because we was like 2 weeks and then I got confused and then...
There was ill.
I was ill.
Where were you the other week?
I don't know, it was 3 weeks, yeah. Oh God, I've lost a week somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's a bit of a panicky.
Did you have another holiday?
Maybe. No, it was Mother's Day and I was out that Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I was out with my mother and my family, doing family things, which, to be honest, I'm glad only happens once a year. It wasn't the mother so much as the niece and nephew, but yes, it was
I assume mother, niece and nephew was also there.
Yes, it was a long day. And I'm kind of glad I don't have kids, really.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So you were the only one there who wasn't contributing to being the mother?
Yeah, something, probably.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yes, lots to talk about. Also, we're doing some crazy technological nightmarish experiment thing. Okay, right, fine.
It'll have happened by then.
Okay.
The fact that this is going live to Twitch doesn't really...
It's a happening that is now happening and will have happened by the time you see this.
And if you're watching this or listening to this, there's a much better video quality version of it available on YouTube.
Okay, cool. So yeah, given that it's been that long, I probably ought to talk about the weeks, the what we're playing static groups around the week thing. Yeah. Okay, so Monday. Let's talk Monday. So I don't know, have I even mentioned... I'm sure I've talked about Secret World Legends. We're doing that on the Monday. We're on to the second zone now, and in the second/third zone, pinging backwards and forwards between Savage Coast and Blue Mountain, much faster than before. It was such a chore, but I think most people who've played old school Secret World pre-Legends revamp thing will remember that you get Solomon Island's interesting, Kingsmouth Towns, that's your starter zone. It's all new and interesting and fun. Ooh, lots of Gribblies from the sea, Cthulhu dungeon, and you do your dungeon to go and punch Cthulhu in the face, and that's all still there. And then you sort of get onto the second zone, and more of the same. And there's these irritating ACAB things which basically do a charge attack and knock you over all the goddamn time. And then there's lots of running around in the Blue Mountain area, and there's like Sasquatches and more of these ACAB things. It just really bogs down, and it doesn't help that the whole zone all three of these zones are basically perpetually shrouded in fog constantly.
Is that for frame rate?
Well, I think it might be a not very subtle way of keeping the draw distance down, and so it's just a bit grim, a bit drizzly, a bit grindy, and it really makes you work through it all the way through. But I don't know what they've done. I think the Dawning of an Endless Night main story mission that runs through the entire Solomon Island 3 zones seems much faster. We're on to sort of story-based instances that I remember having taken much longer to get to last time through. So that's good. It keeps you interested, keeps you moving forward. Pretty much most of the side quests have all been rejigged to become sort of, now you've done a quest, go over here for the next main quest. It's all signposted and sort of flows much better as a theme park experience, I suppose. Except the theme park, which is still a hideous place. There's a sort of abandoned fairground in one of these zones where they apply this horrid sort of video static effect to your screen while you're in there, and it always gives me a headache, and still does, so we skip straight through there without hanging around much. We are 5 of us doing solo questing, and so that tends to speed things along, as you might imagine. I sometimes get a hit on things. I've been experimenting with my secondary weapon, so you pick a class now instead of just freeform getting it all wrong from the get-go.
An improvement.
Yeah, the classes are pretty well designed, and the classes have trait lines, and in those trait lines, relatively easily able to pick out the DPS line or the tanky line or the Healy line, whichever you want to actually do. And I thought, okay, so I've got my Chaos Focus, and I've set that up to tank quite well. It works all very well, but I was doing almost no damage at all. It's almost embarrassing. I'd run on ahead and start attacking a monster, and the other 4 would come over the hill and see me, frantically kicking at over and over and over this solo mob, and then they just come in and one hit it. Are you all right over there? Yeah, I'm all right. So I've decided to experiment with my pistols, which are the other weapon the Trickster gets, and those have got a lot more DPS-y stuff in there. So I built up I've spent some points on building a couple of lines of DPS abilities in there. And that's basically just standing there firing off guns like crazy all the time, and that's a lot more satisfying. Does a lot more damage. I mean, I still can't out damage the rest of the team because I think they've just gone a bit mad with better actual classes they picked from the start, which have more inherent damage potential, I guess. I don't know. It's such a negligible and inconsequential thing, though, because we are 5-manning solo content. It really doesn't matter what abilities or buttons we press. So So we're just blasting through as sort of big steamroller bulldoze through the early content with the intention of getting well into Egypt before it starts to get a bit bogged down and a bit boring. So I remember we did get to Egypt last time, but it was such sort of slow going that we'd sort of gotten a bit fed up of the game as a whole by then. So looking forward to that. I mean, like I said before, the content's the same. It's just the mechanics are now better and more streamlined. So yeah, we're doing well there. We're still ticking through, still doing the stuff. There's various stuff we can go back to. We did the Hell Dungeon. That's the second one that comes off of the Overlook Motel on Savage Coast. And yes, I can't remember what the actual story is there, because I think there's some solo missions that you do beforehand which give you a bit of background to it, which we just sort of blast through without looking or paying any attention to. But yeah, you're going in after some chap called Crowley who's gone in there and is being held captive and is being used as some kind of conduit to the mortal world or something. So you have to work your way through a whole load of bosses, and there's very dense boss fights in there. I mean, it's despite all the mechanic changes and streamlining they've done in this game, they've sort of kept a lot of the content, which means the dungeons work more or less the same way. They haven't retooled how those boss fights work, and some of them are very sort of positional. There's one where you're in a big sort of ring-shaped area of sort of circular corridor, and there's these sort of emitter things that do lightning blasts in sequence around this circle. So basically you have to kite the boss all the way around this circle while you're fighting it. Otherwise, if you stand still, you just get hosed by the environmental effects that are going on. Then there's another one where you're on this long drawbridge thing, and there's a bigger load of explodey fire that starts at one end and just sort of works towards you while you're fighting, which puts a bit of time pressure on the whole thing. Essentially DPS check mechanics in a way. If you haven't got enough oomph, then you're not going to get it done. And then there was the last fight, which I remember being a terrifying thing, where last time we did it in the old style game, there were 3 of us lying dead watching the remaining 2 of us. I think it was Welsh Troll and Wish were just sort of doing this dual ping pong blood magic damage over time kiting thing on the end boss, and that was quite hectic to watch, let alone take part in. But this time we managed to all stay alive. We did some good stuff there, used our skills and abilities to cause damage and stuff. I was tanking well. I've got my tanking sorted in that game. Trouble is, very little of the game requires tanking.
Yeah.
there's the dungeons, obviously, and there's each zone has these layer areas, which sort of burnt areas on the map, which can typically contain very high level for the region enemies, which I think you're meant to go back to after you finish the game and then work through those, which I think we're too high to be able to do. So there's not much in the way of ambient world group content in the game at present, and I suppose that's the compromise they make with the redesign. You don't want the whole game to be just so difficult that people are getting steamrolled by solo mobs all the time. So yeah, still I think we're probably in a position to finish up Blue Mountain this week, and then probably we'll be on to Egypt the week after. So we're making really fast progress through there compared to previous. So yeah, that's going well. So over to you.
Oh, I was quick. Wow.
I've got lots to talk about. I'm just going to keep handing back to you until you run out of stuff, and then I'll take over.
The usual 20-30 minutes.
I've got a lot to get through this week.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter World. Yeah. I've heard of that.
It came out and was popular.
Is that a Nintendo exclusive?
No, this time. Last one was on Wii, and before that it was on Sony handheld. I played it on the Sony handheld. The PSP probably, or was it the Vita? Either way, probably PSP. And I really, really liked it back then. It was really, really good and really fun. And basically it's a game where you go out, you whack on a monster, you steal bits of a monster.
Yeah.
And then, in a revolutionary idea, you take said bits of monster to make new things that enable you to take up bigger monsters.
Okie dokie.
And that's about it.
Yep. Always more monsters.
And this one is much of the same. Only it looks a lot better because it's on the current gen consoles. Not quite out on PC yet. Don't know when it will be. And so yeah, it's just basically you get given a bunch of quests. You wander out into the wilds. You whack on monsters until you can steal bits of them.
It's getting a bit of a Witcher vibe off of the whole thing.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
You go out, you kill a big monster. So yeah, very witchery, but not quite, because you're just basically you're part of a scientific expedition.
Quite proactive science then.
Yeah.
Proactive biology, yeah.
Yeah, you need to basically go out and you'll be doing something like you need to expand your camp. So what will happen is there's a big monster nearby.
Yeah.
Now, said big monster was here first.
Yeah.
So you kill it.
Some terrifying cultural imperialism going on then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's one of the problems.
But you can't start sympathising with the monsters. That way leads madness.
That's the problem. I am.
Yeah.
I'm feeling guilty for doing it. I'm going out killing these monsters. All
Beautiful
they've done
natural
is live
creatures.
happily on this
Yeah,
island.
yeah.
And I just go out and kill them for the sake of it because, I want
For
to
the
know more
lols.
about the monsters.
Yeah.
Or somebody else wants to know more about the monsters.
It's a very
I'm
Victorian.
collecting bits of skin.
It's a very Victorian approach,
is.
isn't it?
There's something about the...
Kill it, stuff it, put it in a bell jar, then study it. And, yeah.
Something about the 21st century Englishman in me is rejecting the 19th century Englishman attitude of doing that. And
Yeah. Pinning them to wall charts and stuff. Yeah.
So I spent the entire time playing it with this odd feeling.
Yeah.
This massive
It's like unease.
feeling that I'm doing something wrong, that I'm not the good guy. In fact, I'm the bad guy and I shouldn't be doing this.
Well, what would happen if you didn't do all this stuff? Would the monsters destroy all your friends and your camp and things?
They're on an island. We could have just left them alone. I'm pretty sure the plot later on will explain why something needs to be done to stop them going. Yeah.
So Jurassic Park, then, basically.
It's a place where the big monsters go to every however many years,
Okay.
whatever it was, for reasons we
When you
don't know.
say big monsters, how big are we talking? Are we talking kaiju or
The game's open traditionally with you on a boat,
Yeah.
or at least all the ones I've
we're
played.
just talking rhinoceroses with antlers?
You on a boat,
Yeah.
and then a large creature will attack and do.
Oh, well, there we
else.
go.
And in this one, you're attacked by one which is
They
the size
started
of a
it.
mountain.
They started it. There you go.
Sure, you are attacked.
They
You're
opened
just not
hostilities. Yeah, something the size of a mountain wouldn't even notice you. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is collection quests. You have a list of things you need to get. You go out and get them and come back.
Okay.
And that's where the game maybe gets a bit repetitive. I never had this problem with the old ones.
Yeah.
But this one I do for some reason. It just... You go out, you find the monster you need to kill,
Yeah.
you track it, you look at lots and lots of footprints till you track it, and then it turns up on the map, and then you bound off to where it is, go, hi monster, I want to kill you now, and attack it with your sword or your whatever weapons, a lot of weapons you can have.
Okay.
And then you beat it down to a certain point, and then it runs off.
Yeah.
And you chase it.
Okay.
Guess how many times that happens?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Ticket in a box.
and the last time it runs off limping to its home.
Right, having essentially retreated, having surrendered
Yeah.
in the only way it understands how, having attempted to flee, you then
Yeah.
follow it back to where it lives
And kill it.
Right. And its children?
Well, if there's any other monsters nearby, yes, 'cause they probably are getting in the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all comes down to the definition of monster, doesn't it? Maybe they're not the monsters.
Maybe they're hunting a monster.
Maybe they're being hunted by a monster.
Yeah.
Monster hunter. You're a hunter that is a monster.
Oh, okay with the game again now.
There we go. It's all a question of role play.
It's a very Japanese game in style.
Yeah.
So it's got that look, and when you walk into the wall, you keep running.
Seems like the game loop itself then is quite, like I say, the basic business of hunting a monster sounds a bit repetitive. It doesn't mix things up. It doesn't change much.
It's not a game that I can sit down and play massive chunks of.
Perhaps you're not meant to. Maybe the hunting the monster is your game block, your game unit, as it were.
I've played it for a couple of weeks. Because that's the problem. It doesn't have at the moment any hook to get me to keep coming back.
Yeah.
It's got
Is there like
it's got a lovely environment.
collectibles aspect? Is there a big list of monsters that you're filling in, or
Well, there's always
achievements,
a bigger monster
obviously,
that you need to get and new equipment to be able to kill the bigger monster.
Yeah.
Yada. But I sit down and think, what should I play now? And the list of games, Monster Hunter doesn't really come up.
Well, yeah, that sort of sticky. I don't know. Perhaps addictiveness is not the term, but there's all the desire to want to play a thing.
Which is weird because when I was playing it back on the PSP, that was there, and I had this desire to keep playing it.
So they've done something different in this version versus the old one, or you've changed, yeah, possibly.
Because that was a long time ago. In fact, I probably talked about it years ago on the podcast. Like probably right at the start sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that's not quite clicking with me, and for other people it may be. But I know that it's sold really, really well.
Well, even I heard of it. Yeah.
It sold really, really well, and broke records for the series and vindicated.
Made its money, I suppose.
Actually being available internationally, which may have been a thing which wasn't always considered a good idea.
Right, yeah.
And now, so it sold loads, but only a couple of people I see on my friends list still playing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means anything, or if just I don't have the right kind of friends.
I don't know. What is the lifespan of these games these days? Expected lifespan? How long are people expected to be interested? And in a way, you don't really want people interested in your game to the exclusion of other games for very long because you want to try and sell them other games.
No, that's not how it works now.
Well, quite.
Now it's games as a service. They want you to play and keep playing and never stop playing.
Well,
That's why GTA.
that's
makes more money
patently
now
not.
than it did when it launched.
That's not sustainable, then, is it?
No,
Because if
not at all.
if existing games do not go away, then new games don't really have a space in people's attention share or market share or whatever that wretched phrase is. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
people can only be. But I've got a desktop full of icons that I look at when I want to play a game. But ultimately, there's about 6 or so that I'll actually play with any real regularity.
Yeah.
6 or 7. So
I keep
you
remembering
know.
those games I keep meaning to play.
Yeah, yeah.
I started and forgot. But
And that directly drives my purchasing or lack of, you know. I mean, I don't buy a lot of games, mostly because the games I've already got haven't gone away.
yeah.
So, yeah. So it becomes a lot much more fiercely competitive thing then, I suppose, if you're intending for your game to remain current and relevant for a very long time. You've got to keep, not only beat all the games that currently exist, but guard against future games that are coming out. Yeah, tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, so I should probably get back to play it.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to talk about Factorio. So Tuesdays we were playing Elite Dangerous, and we didn't. I suppose we sort of burnt out, but I don't think it was anything really the game
You
itself
ran out of
did.
content.
Well, no, because I think the week after we stopped playing it, they dropped their big first bit of Beyond, Elite Dangerous Beyond, their current DLC patch
madness,
updates. I don't know. Yeah, and apparently there's wing missions have gone in. There's like another a sort of heavy Type 10 variant that's designed for Thargoid hunting, that kind of thing. I mean, you know, there's stuff happening still. It's still ongoing, but I think just the game as a whole, as a concept, you know, I think I'd gotten a bit tired of it, and we were looking for something else a bit more interesting. Sea of Thieves coming up, of course, and is here now. I think actually,
It is up.
yeah, it's now
I own
here.
it.
Lots of our Elite Dangerous gang were quite keen on that. I personally am a bit lukewarm on Sea of Thieves, mostly because it's essentially a PUBG kind of game. It's a battle royale type of PvP format,
Ish.
apparently. Well,
Sort of.
yeah, there's a very strong PvP element,
It's very PV.
team PvP element. Yeah, there's not.
Apparently, it's very hard single player.
Yeah, and I'm
I'll
just
find out at some point.
I'm just a big wuss that doesn't really like PvP much. So I might just sit the Sea of Thieves out myself.
From my other game,
Plus,
actually.
also, I've yet to use the Windows 10 store, and I don't want to break my duck. So you know.
See, I got it for free
Yeah.
with my Games Pass.
Oh, if you've got the right kind of Xbox pass, you've probably got it. Yeah.
You can get it for free yourself for a month.
Is it cross-play compatible?
Yeah.
What, Xbox people and PC people
Yeah,
can all play
yeah.
the same? Oh, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, but so there was a lot of anticipation for that. But I think what we went with in the end on the Tuesdays was Factorio.
Interesting choice.
Yes. You know,
A game about not being able to fit what you want in the available space.
it's either
Why
yeah.
did I put that there? I'm an idiot.
It's an early access game that I wouldn't have gone for myself otherwise, but
It's still early access.
yes.
I played it years ago.
I know. This do you want the early access rant again?
Go on.
I'm sure I've done that a couple of weeks. No. Suffice to say, well, I'll talk about that another time. But basically, yeah, it's there and playable enough. They're still working on it though. There's still patches and tweaks and updates and things going on because it's not finished yet.
No game's ever finished.
Well, this is the problem,
Just
isn't
stop
it?
making
Yeah. But we're playing that on the Tuesdays, and we're playing it in the co-op since. Candle has kindly hosted up a server for us. He's done it on a strict time availability limit as well.
Genius.
Yes, because we've done this kind of thing before, particularly usually with Minecraft. We'll have someone will kindly set up a server and leave it running, and some of us will log in for an hour and chat and do a few things together, and some of us will log in for like 20 or 30 hours in the dead of night and build terrifyingly large and complex castles that I find quite intimidating.
Sometimes you log in day 2 expecting to find the frontier, and there is an entire town.
Yeah, where does this shopping mall come from? Yeah, so well, basically by that I mean that different people playing have different levels of participation and enthusiasm, of course, and that's fine. There's
Different activity streams.
nothing wrong with that at all. Some people want to just dabble, and some people are really into this stuff, and it's a problem when you just let people play at their own pace in this kind of shared endeavour, because what happens is that various people get, some people log in and look around and see such vast industry having gone on that they find themselves a bit intimidated and wonder, well, how can I contribute? What's left for me? And I don't know. It's only a problem if you get competitive about it, I suppose, because these kinds of servers, they're typically co-op or co-op or solo together type endeavours. So there's not really things to compete against, but but what Candle's done with this one is he's only opening the server for availability for the static group time slot on the Tuesday, which is good, yeah, and I guess that makes life easier for the server hosting aspects of it all as well. I have no idea what's involved in adminning that kind of thing. So we're all logging on, and basically, so the Factorio itself, it's a 2D 2D sort of top-down spritey type game, which is surprising. You don't see a lot of that these days, but. And I initially was just put off from that quite a lot just because of the aesthetic. I thought, it's 3D or go home for me, really, these days. But I thought, no, we'll give it a go. And, it's quite good. Yeah. The 2D of it all creates certain interesting problems. So basically, Factorio, you are a guy who's crashed onto an alien planet in his little wrecked space. Yes, in a wrecked spaceship, and you've got a whole bunch of recipes and crafting abilities and tools, and there's various iron, copper, and coal resources around the place. And basically, by going at it with a pickaxe, you can start to build up an infrastructure of various types of machinery, various types of processes that can turn this material into that material into that material. And the ultimate aim is to get off the planet, I think, by firing a rocket, building a rocket and launching it into space, or a satellite or something. I'm not sure if you actually get in the rocket, but basically you have to. It's a game driven by its tech tree. So you have a whole huge list of different researchable technologies which will give you more abilities and more materials and so on, and you work your way up this list, with the far end of it being the tech victory, which is building the rocket to win the game. And it's essentially the same game if you're playing multiplayer or single player, but presumably with multiplayer, lots of you can help and get things done more efficiently and quicker. That's the theory, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of planning, this game.
Well, yes, it is. It is a sort of project management simulator of a sort. I mean, the basic, because it's all 2D, you're placing loads of stuff on the ground. Things like a little brick furnace that you can put stone into, which will turn them into bricks, or a smelt, or you can smelt iron into iron plates, iron ore into iron plates, so using the coal as well. And then you've got these little inserter arm things, which are just basically robot arms which can put things into stuff and take things out of stuff, depending which way around they face. And then you've got lots of conveyor belts which you can put stuff on, which will take things around to your area to different places. And so using these basic concepts of tools, you have to try and build together working factory processes. It really reminds me of some of the more extreme industrial techie type Minecraft mods, where it's all about furnaces and machinery and pipes and automation.
It's a game of automation.
Yeah, but this is designed from the get-go with that kind of gameplay and style in mind, instead of it all being mods on top of Minecraft, for example, which Minecraft itself is essentially a game about Lego, really. Yeah. It's just that a lot of very clever people have created mod packs where they built blocks that start to do industrial processes, and then you have to move things between them with pipes or ducts or whatever. Whereas Factorio, that's essentially the game as designed from the word go. So obviously much better supported, less likely to break and go wrong or just be totally overbalanced or whatever. And yeah, it is a puzzle game. It's that whole the impossible machine. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. So, you are basically trying to put various different types of machinery in elegant and effective patterns. And initially, it's that simple to learn, difficult to master type thing, because obviously, digging up some minerals with a mining machine, the mining, little arm takes them out of the mining machine, puts them on a conveyor belt takes it across to a furnace, little arm takes them off the conveyor belt, puts it in the furnace turns them into iron plates. Done. There you go. That's iron processing. But then, where do the iron plates go? And then the iron plates need to be turned into cogs, which then are part of the thing that can make this, that, and the other. And
then everything backs up.
It is. It's about ratios. It's about efficiency and optimizing. It's about trying to fit it.
Two red to one blue.
Yeah, exactly. One of those and two of those make one of these, and then we need one of those fed over to this machine to make it into something else. And it gets.
And oh my god, there's a thing in the way there, so I have to tunnel under.
Yeah. Your conveyor has to go under and over, and it becomes very quickly starts to get out of hand. The sort of the bits bolted on to the overall network. I sort of remarked it looked like a circuit board from the zoomed out map, and in a way that's kind of what it is. You're trying to pipe things from one place to another without getting in the way of everything else, and each time you get a new technology research, some new process becomes available, which means you need to start getting stuff off of there and over there. And of course all this stuff is pyramid based. In other words, you've got it could take you 100 units of iron ore to make one thing up near the top. So you have to, each time you add more stuff on, you have to increase the overall mining capacity. And of course, you've run out of minerals. These are finite resources in large patches on the landscape. And when you've run out, you have to then go further away and find a new patch of minerals and mine those and somehow bring them back to all the stuff.
Trains.
You got trains, yeah. There are railway tracks and trains that can load and unload into cargo trucks, and and signals and points and all sorts of stuff. And of course, all the time this is all happening, you're generating pollution, which can be seen on the world map, which generates a big sort of red haze around your stuff. And if that pollution touches any of the indigenous life forms, then you start to get a bit. You get visited. Yeah. So the aliens, it's very much like the Zerg from StarCraft. It's that kind of aesthetic, because StarCraft, of course, 2D sprite-based sort of RTS. There is a sort of RTS light aspect to it. There are different units, different alien units. There's the biters that are just simple sort of cockroach things that just come running in and trying to eat the nearest things they reach. And then, hello.
Yeah,
okay. So your microphone's gone weird. So you've got these things coming in. The biters, they're easily dealt with. You can build turrets to deal with them, of course. So you've got various sorts of machine gun turrets, and then you have to manually feed those with ammunition, and you have to build the ammunition. And that needs conveyor belts to take them out there. And he's gone. And then you get these more advanced biters that can hang back and start spitting at your stuff, and they're outside of the range of the bullet-based gun turrets. And then you need to start thinking about, do I want to go with laser turrets, which needs electricity, which needs steam generation? And there's a vast level in this thing, which is the whole game, I think, and it's a really fascinating thing. So we've been sort of working through that, building up. See, the whole thing is driven by the labs, the science bottles. You have these laboratories, which are just small buildings which consume science packs, which are these different coloured little flasks of science. And those bottles are made from various different bits and pieces. So, for example, the red bottles, I think, just need a copper plate and a cog or something. Yeah. Whereas I think we're starting to get up to the yellow bottles next, I think, or the dark blue bottles, and they need all sorts of crazy materials, often sort of like 6 or 7 different things all assembled in a factory to turn into a bottle. And then the bottle needs to be piped down to the lab, and that then goes as well. So, and then different technologies on the tree require different amounts of these bottles. I think the one we're doing nuclear physics at the moment, which is going to be exciting. And those, I think that needs about 2,000 of 4 different coloured bottles. And of course, you can't just pipe the bottles in one at a time. You have to. It will only do science when it has one each of the required colours at the same time, which means you have to really be quite clever with the pipe work and the conveyor belts coming in and all the different sub processes. And you end up with sort of little sub factories off in different places that are doing little miniature sets of processes, which will have lots of different inputs, and then one thing comes out, and then that can go off to somewhere else where that's required to be built in. It's just the depth and the complexity of it all is enough to really make your head spin, and it absolutely sort of triggers my sort of my sense of order geek. That was really enjoying some of the more elaborate tech-based mods in Minecraft, but of course this is a game specifically designed for that, not difficultly kludged onto by mod packs or whatever. I don't know if Factorio has mods. Perhaps it does. It's not actually finished yet though.
It does.
So you got crude oil as well. You pump the oil out, and then you have to put that through a whole bunch of fractioning refineries to take off heavy oil, light oil, and petroleum gas and all sorts of things. And then that all goes into various chemical industries and plastics and things. It's insane. And I often on a Tuesday I'll log into the server and have a look and just zoom the map out, and it's like, what the, there's just conveyor belts everywhere and different sorts of resources going everywhere, and you have to sort of manually trace it back and right, that's all coming off of there, that one goes to there, so where do these go? And the idea, I think, at the moment, I think in general the core gameplay is to try and keep the science labs fed with the coloured bottles as quickly and as often as possible. Everything else feeds into that because that unlocks your new technologies, and ultimately the top end technology is your rocket that goes to space or whatever. So it's really good. And you've got tanks. We've unlocked tanks recently, which has led us to try and take on the bugs at their bases. They actually have their own buildings which act as spawning for the incoming visits of biters and stuff that you get. And so there's a kind of limited light RTS aspect to it. I mean, it's totally susceptible and broken by the turret rush.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, you go. I think me and Embryo went out one session with about 20 or 30 laser turrets and about 200 electricity pylons. We're just laying down this cable back to the main base with the electrical pylons, and then bump, 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 laser turret, and then just run away and hide while the laser turrets go mad and annihilate the enemy buildings. But they keep coming in from further out, and they set up new buildings. There's constant pressure, and of course, the bigger and more processes you add, the more pollution you're generating, the more vigorously you get visited by different types of biters. There's heavy ones that take a lot of killing as well, and they can start to munch through stuff. So we've come up with like walls and dragon's teeth and landmines and stuff. It's got floaty robots, which form a kind of logistics delivery network as sort of mid-game onwards. So basically, these little floating drones can deliver stuff to you. So you set yourself a stock level on your personal inventory, and any time you go near into the sort of drone supply range, they'll all just start picking these up and flying towards you and dropping them off. So that sort of alleviates things a bit. But it's a complicated game, and it's interesting to see how we're managing to sort of get stuff done. It's largely a sort of cooperative aspect. There's no one person who's decided to take on the job of being in charge or giving everyone else work. I'm quite new to the game and don't really know it that well, so I'm quite happy to take suggestions and I'll try and help where I can. But but people will just pick up and start doing things that seem to need doing, and we've got this long chain bus thing going on where we're trying to have a whole series of different resources available on a set of parallel belts, all running massively lengthways across the base. And then you can sort of use splitters to pull off required resources above and below. It sort of works, actually. It does. The problem we're getting is that we're just starting to consume such vast amounts of iron and coal and copper to keep the whole thing fed that we're having to start going quite far and setting up little satellite bases and train lines to try and keep enough materials coming in. It's really good, really intriguing as well. I don't think I've played anything quite like it. Like I say, the Minecraft mods for some of the more obscure technical sides of things, but I think back to the Impossible Machine, but that was a very limited subset of here is a particular goal we need you to solve and here are the pieces to do it, whereas this is much more of an open free-form thing. And I'm just constantly surprised at how the sudden unlocking and addition of one new technology or another necessitates tearing down and rebuilding a whole new sections of the base. We got electrical furnaces the other day. Normal furnace, you feed it coal and the thing you want smelted, and it dumps out the thing that is smelted. So iron ore and coal makes an iron plate, or you put iron plates back in to make steel with coal. But they require the coal to do that all the time. Whereas the electrical furnaces, you just need an electricity pylon. You've got a load of telegraph poles giving electricity all around this place to electrical things. And the electrical furnace will just use electricity and turn iron ore straight into steel plates, which means you don't need the coal being fed in.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's good. But the footprint's slightly larger, which means that you have to now tear a whole load of stuff down, make new holes, and the little feedy arm things don't quite reach or are in the way. So there's you got the two things. You got the automation cost thing going on. If I do a thing, I can do this thing manually a couple of times and just do it. How many times do I have to do it before it becomes easier just to build an automatic system to do it? You sort of take that time out to step away and build an automated thing to do it. It's very much a process and almost like visual programming in a way. But also you got the how long do we let this inefficient kludge run before we ought to just tear it down and rebuild with the new technology? Start it again. Little sort of optimizing and designing sort of things like that are quite fascinating challenges. And it is an industrial process game that I play for fun, which is odd, but very satisfying. Very satisfying. I'm enjoying it a lot. So that's what we're doing on the Tuesdays anyway. I don't know what I think we will be back to Elite Dangerous at some point, I'm sure, because it's a good game that we didn't rage quit from. It's just we felt we needed a break and try something different. I think they're going to be playing Sea of Thieves a fair bit as well. But who knows what else on the Tuesdays. But Factorio, I don't know how far we are through. Looking at the available tech tree, I think we're probably about halfway through, and we've been doing it about 4 or 5 weeks now. So it's good. I'm enjoying it a lot. If you like the sort of mod packs for Minecraft that involve machines and resource ratios and stuff, then you'll love this. It's very good. I don't know when it's going to be ready and finished and launched,
Never.
but I know that doesn't seem to really matter anymore. Yeah. Anyway, over to you.
I'm going to talk about Vermintide.
Vermintide
2.
2, yeah.
Which has got more Skaven.
Skaven.
You know, usually I wouldn't condone a game which is all about killing Skaven because that's just a little bit mean.
Skaven are pretty nasty, though, aren't they? Nasty pieces of work.
Cute little,
Cute Skaven.
cute little ratty things.
Cute little hideous mutant warpstone fiends, yeah.
Yeah. This is a game where you have... Imagine Left 4 Dead.
Yes.
Imagine it with Skaven and Warhammer Fantasy
So,
characters.
4-player co-op survival type thing.
We do a level, you have streams of enemies coming at you, and you have to go along and do some things along the way.
Right.
Like you may have to ring a bell and then wait for the resulting stream of enemies to go away. Or
Right.
you may have, may have to align some things on the ground, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Okay.
Incredibly good. Unlike the first one, it seems a lot harder, and it doesn't quite seem as, I don't know.
The first one was quite favourably received, as I understand. I didn't play it myself, but a lot of people liked it.
No, it seems like it's a lot more along the lines of a bit more survivally rather than just go along and do these thingsy. But that could just be me, I don't know. You pick from a bunch of characters which you can level up. So you might want to be the dwarf, or you might want to be the witch hunter, or the elf.
Or hat with a buckle.
Yeah, and you basically you level them up. You get new gear. You need to upgrade your gear, new guns, new crossbows, new swords, that kind of thing. To be able to keep going. And you can run all these missions on different difficulty levels. Now, there's only so many missions because being a Left 4 Dead type game, it's one of those games where we just replay stuff, and it's very, very interesting. It looks great.
The proper skulls everywhere, sort of Warhammer Old World style.
I've dialed it down a bit. It's during the end times, so everything's gone a little bit to pieces.
Right.
And you're dealing with Skaven and Chaos now.
Okay.
So you've got Chaos Warriors and things, and Chaos Spawn. I hate Chaos Spawn. They're the
Chaos Spawn.
They're the most annoying creatures.
I don't think you're meant to like them.
No, they're really hard to kill.
And
they keep grabbing members of your party and chomping on them to repair their health.
Is this like Left 4 Dead's sort of signature boss zombie type things?
Oh yeah, there are a bunch of different types of creatures you have in there. Like there'll be the guy with the warp flame thrower.
Oh right.
Or the proper Chaos Warrior, who's just this large, heavy armoured guy.
Yeah.
There's this really annoying Skaven assassin-y guy who just jumps on people and stabs them. Really annoying and kills people. And it's really, really good. I'm really liking it. You can play it solo if you want using bots, which is okay for learning the levels, but you're not getting the most.
Not really the point of it. No. Yeah.
And it's really, really enjoyable. And I don't know how long it's going to take for the levels to get too repetitive, but Left 4 Dead never really did unless you were playing with you. And then,
You're never going to let me leave that down.
you broke the game.
I can't help it. It punished me. It singled me out as a particular problem and decided to...
You were doing so well because
really
your
wasn't.
effort of not trying very hard looked like you were doing really well.
I'm quite a defensive player, which the AI director in Left 4 Dead really doesn't like.
No, it assumes that you can take a bit more zombies.
Yeah, it was horrific. I played it twice, I think, with you lot, and I've never touched it since. It was really traumatic.
So it's a good game. I recommend it quite a lot. It's made more money than the first game did in the first couple of weeks.
Very popular, yeah.
And it's not even out on consoles yet. It's just out
You got
on PC.
like character progression in there, is it?
You level up your characters. You unlock different traits as you go through, and you can switch between them to try and make some semblance of a build. But it's not a very fleshed out system there. It's
Quite
more
light.
a case of you'll be after gear to get your power level up, so that you can actually be more useful. Like you start out completely useless, and after the first mission, you'll end up with a much better sword and a much better ranged weapon.
Okay.
And
That does sound cool. Is it group size of 4, though, is it?
yeah, group size of 4,
yeah.
which is a bit of a problem, but
Well, can't have everything, I suppose.
So, mind you, it's one of those games where too many people would be too chaotic.
Yeah.
It's already pretty
difficult to
chaotic
balance.
with a bit too much flame-based magic. And
Just fire everywhere.
Firing.
Cool. Okay. I forgot what I was going to ask now. But yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it's very good. I recommend it heartily.
Cool. I'm going to talk about Thursdays because we're sort of on and off still playing Warframe on the Thursdays.
Okay.
That's still going. I was surprised how long and how enduring that's been for me. It just seems to really hit that short play spot for me. You can do a level or two. They rarely take more than 15 minutes. And you've got this long progression in there where you're saving up resources to build new Warframes or new guns or whatever. And of course the solar system map, which I've yet to finish. Some of them are getting quite tricky around sort of Sedna and Eris, sort of beyond Pluto. Yeah, there's a lot of buildcraft to be had in there. They just had their 5-year anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, they're very pleased with themselves, and rightly so. It's a good game. It seems to be very popular. They've got a lot of they have a lot of goodwill. They seem to have a community that likes them, and they seem to be making the right kinds of noises in the sort of more meta game journalist press as well. Particularly, I mean, there was sort of some interviews I think recently. They had I think some chap called NoClip who does YouTube videos or whatever.
They're very, very good.
I should. Yeah, and apparently during this interview they came out with this quite astonishing remark that they had to take one of their cash shop offerings out because apparently people were using it too much. it was making them too much money, so they took it out. It was, it sounds stupid, but obviously they got some kind of morals, I suppose. Is that the word? They have a sense of decency when it comes to whales and whale farming.
They've been cultivating a reputation.
Yeah. Well, this particular thing was essentially it was a slot machine. You gave them 69 cents or whatever, and it randomised the fur colours of your pet space dog thing. And someone, I think within the first week or two, someone had dropped $200 on it in one go. You know, and they were so horrified by this, the exploitative nature of what they'd created, that they decided to back it out, which is just an really unusual story. Most, if that were EA or whoever, they'd be laughing to the bank with that kind of thing. Anyway, so they've got a whole load of events going on at the moment to celebrate these 5 years. The Gifts of the Lotus thing. There is a secondary weapon, primary weapon, melee weapon, and a cloak that you can have by doing a one-time event. The relatively low-end difficulty missions that you do, and those weapons they're actually quite good. I've got them all. I've taken them for a bit of a spin. They're pretty effective, very useful kit to have. And they come pre-catalysted, the potato. So basically, they come with their double upgrade slots already, and they come with a weapon slot. And that's very valuable because that doesn't eat into, because the weapon slots and equipment Warframe slots are about the only thing you have to actually buy with real money, and these things don't consume any of those, so you get them in addition. So worth doing. If you're at all interested in the game, pop in and get those done. You need to do like 4 missions. I think the most difficult one was about level 10 or so. You'll need to, each of these missions, you have to do it with only the primary weapon equipped, or only the secondary weapon, or only the melee equipped. But, that's not too bad if you've got some decent ones leveled up already. I've nearly got the Octavia Warframe built. I've got all the parts now. I just need to save up one of the particularly rarer resources by the occasional alerts and missioning, and then I'll have it all done. I'll be able to start inflicting all sorts of horrors on my regular group friends with the inbuilt sequencer. I've already found a fantastic Mandochord rendition of the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. So that might, we'll see how we go from there. But yes, that's the interesting sort of barred frame group buff based thing that you can give it your own music to, and then if people shoot in time to the music, they gain shooting buffs, that kind of thing. It's just a fascinating mechanic that I'd quite like to explore. So doing well there. I think in the short term, it's all still Plains of Eidolon stuff and new bosses to fight on there. I think then what we'll probably see soon will be some sort of Venus-based open world outdoor plains type zone soon. I don't know how far off that is, a couple of months maybe, but so everything seems to be really going well for Digital Extremes in this game. It was a game that sort of really started off really quite weak and not very appreciated, and it seems to have gained traction and picked up. So doing well. I'm still interested, and it really is that just drop in, do a bit of a mission. Oh, what kind of alerts are on now? Oh yeah, this one's going to give me some of these resources I could do with those. I'll pop in and do that. Or this one's blueprint for a cosmetic head for one of my Warframes. We'll do that. So I'm quite keen to try and help some of the gang get through the second Dream mission, because I really keep wanting to talk about it and no one else has done it, and it's hugely spoilerific. But and it's quite tricky to get to as well. But once you've done the legwork through the solar system and actually done that mission, it does significantly change the game afterwards, and and I can't say anything about it. It's really frustrating. So
Abilities wise or just plot wise?
abilities and plot, everything. Yeah, it really is. It really is all that. I don't say that lightly.
So stop slacking, people.
Yes. I'm trying to help people through. I think a lot of people get stuck on one of the earlier missions, which involves you to use your codex scanner on a thing during a mission somewhere on Uranus. And if you're not quick enough, that thing will vanish. So and you almost don't realise that's happening in the middle of the normal gunplay and stuff. That's the problem. Anyway, so still going with Warframe. It's not really an official Static Thursday group thing, but we're doing it every now and then on the Thursdays, which is good. So over to you.
No,
You're out of stuff. Oh right, back to me again. Good handoff there. Yeah. So Fridays we're still playing Pathfinder. We're on Module 4, just about getting to the end of Module 4 out of 6 on the Kingmaker Adventure Path.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's been going for about 3 years now. So they're working their way through new lands and killing pretty much everything they come across in the traditional murder hobo style, which is good. So yes, instead I shall talk about Saturdays, which seems to have turned into a kind of Lord of the Rings Online static group.
Yeah.
Of 3. We made it to Moria.
Huzzah.
Or Moria. I got into trouble for pronouncing it wrong quite a lot back in the day, and I forget which was the right one. Anyway.
It's my enthusiastic face.
Yes, you don't care, do you? No, you're not going to start again and work through the whole story. And I can see why, because I tell you what, that whole second half of Volume 1 really, really outstays its welcome. It's a shame, and it's not really their fault. Okay, so the epic story is the main reason you're there. It's the story of the other Fellowship of the Ring and are behind, just over the next hill goings-ons. So the first 8 books of Volume 1 are essentially you sort of from behind the scenes helping the Fellowship get to Rivendell in the first place, at which point they park, and then you end up going north to Angmar and dealing with the steward of Angmar, a creature called Moradrith, who's been left behind minding the shop while the Witch King of Angmar's south being in the films and stuff.
Yeah, busy.
Yeah. And there's a lot of to and fro and some interesting story there, largely to do with the Rangers of the North, all the people who aren't Aragorn, who are up there keeping things battened down. And that's all quite good, quite satisfying. Finishes at the end of book 8, you get a title and in your little deed book and stuff. It's all great. And then they were busy trying to make Moria. So for the remaining 7 books of Volume 1, there's a lot of backwards and forwards fetching and carrying and quite frustrating subplot involving a creature called Amarthiel, who's some kind of ring-wrath lady who's trying to find her missing ring of power that didn't show up in any of the films or books, or not even in the unfinished tales. This is it's where they're at their weakest, I think, is their original content. The stuff that doesn't actually involve the Lord of the Rings. And then during that time they added the Zone of Evendim and the Zone of Forochel. I think we were around that kind of time. And so those book volumes were being dropped in sort of in and around that, but they only really added 2 zones during the entirety of the second 7 books worth of epic story content, and most of the rest of it is the most tedious, ridiculous backwards and forwards. Now go and see Elrond. Now go back to talk to someone in your starter area. Now go see Glorfindel. Hey, return to Glowin. There's a lot of have you people not got there's a mailbox. You're stood next to a goddamn mailbox. The whole thing could have been solved in about 30 minutes if mobile phone technology existed in Middle-earth. But anyway, so you do a lot of that. The last book in that whole Volume 1 is quite good. The culmination of the Amarthiel story and Narmaleth and so on. It is a very satisfying thing at the end of it all. And then that leads you, Moria. And we done the introductory lead-in instance thing off of Eregion. That whole sort of the Doors of Durin with the lake and the squid monster thing. So you got this expedition of dwarves who've decided to go and reclaim Moria, and so you end up sort of helping them out quite extensively throughout the whole of Volume 2. And there's an instance at the start which sort of gets them inside, and it's all done in phasing so that you can be there when they do the important stuff. And that's okay. And then they sort of you get attacked by the squid in the lake, because there's a whole sort of backwards and forwards section of that early section where there's basically a bunch of dwarves all stood waiting outside the doors while they dig out the rubble and try and get the doors open so they can go in for the first time. And there's several dwarves all stood on the edge of the lake just chucking stones in repeatedly, and you're just thinking, don't do that. And they do end up getting caught by the big squid monster at the end, the Watcher of the Lake. And it turns out that your normal weapons can't damage the Watcher of the Lake. So that you have to go off and be introduced to the legendary items mechanic. There's a bit of intro gumph about that. And that was exciting at the time when we first saw it. And then later it became less exciting because you get into a habit of looting 5 or 6 legendary items per foray and chucking them all in a big hopper for the parts to make your own legendary weapon get better. And it just, I can't think of anything less legendary than what it actually ends up turning into. And now, when you get to level 100, they stop leveling up anyway, and it turns into a different mechanic. So whatever, So we're just totally not interested in legendary items at all, really, apart from just basic DPS viability. But I've forgotten how great the world design for Moria was. Some people didn't like it because essentially it is, about 15 zones of dark caves that you spend, months of game time, play time in, without seeing the sun particularly.
And too many goats.
Quite a lot of goat trekking around the place.
Goats are not underground creatures.
No.
Set them free.
No, well, I guess horses and ponies are even less. So yeah, but I really enjoyed the Moria zones and the design of it all, and it's not tiny claustrophobic places. I think they might have lightened it up a bit since we were there. The ambient lighting's a bit better, the draw distances are improved, that kind of thing, and you start getting a real large sense of scale in there. These giant dwarven outposts with huge light crystals of light on top, and just the scale of the place, and the music's quite epic as well. I'm really enjoying it. But I think we did one session in there from this Saturday. We spent about 5 or 6 hours in there. We managed to go from the doors of Durin right to the Chamber of the Crossroads and through about 8 or 9 quest hub outposts. So wow. I think either they've streamlined the insides of there a lot, or we're just much better at it these days. I don't know. But we're getting stuck in. We jumped down the well. Yay! Well travelled. You get a title for it. It's brilliant. You die on impact. And we all died on impact except Multi somehow. We then managed to get 2 more ticks on his res deed. Oh. I don't know how he managed to. They must have hit something on the way down or had a parachute or something. But yeah, so we
just landed on the bodies.
Working our way through Moria. I think we're on volume 2, book 2, or I think just starting book 3 now. So I mean, I'm in no specific hurry to clear through there as quickly as possible, because having now done the entire volume 1, we're out of the launch content, the Shadows of Angmar stuff, and it's from Moria and onwards. It's all relatively it's unrepeated for me. So this is like for Moria. I think it's perhaps the 3rd time I've seen it. 3rd character that's even got through the doors of Durin. So it's all still relatively interesting. So I'm quite prepared to start doing some actual hub quest stuff, as well as just relentlessly pressing on the volumes to get the story through. I don't mind seeing a bit of the side stuff again, because it's quite an interesting place. But yeah, so we've got lots to do in there, lots of backwards and forwards. I haven't reached the 21st hall yet, which is the main sort of hub for goods and services. Yeah. That'll be the place to get. Because once you get to the 21st hall, then you can swift travel to Bree, swift travel to Rivendell and so on, which means you can leave the place and see the sky if you like now and then. At the moment, we're kind of stuck inside the place doing the stuff. But it's okay. I'm enjoying it. It's good. I don't know how long it'll take us to get through and out the other side. Because once you're out there, it's Lothlorien, and that's just a town hub, really. There's not a lot goes on there. But then we're on to the southern Mirkwood, and I'm not looking forward to that, to be honest. It wasn't a high point.
No.
The whole southern Mirkwood expansion, I just want to clear through there.
It's just a string of low points, really.
It's just a big old gnarly forest and a lot of spiders, which I suppose is what you're expecting. But they put such an emphasis on Dol Guldur raiding. It was like the big thing was, we're going to have lots and lots of raid instances and lots of dungeons in Dol Guldur. And that's fine if you're a dedicated guild who are at the top of your game and that is the end game content. But apart from that, most people are just pottering through or not interested. They're off down in blinking Mordor or whatever now. So I don't know. We'll get through it because I own it already. And then back onto Enedreth and head down through the Isengard stuff. I really want to see Rohan. There's just so much in there I want to see. I only ever made it as far in terms of where the Fellowship got to. I didn't reach the end of book 1, the end of the Fellowship of the Ring, where the Fellowship split apart. So I don't know. There's a lot of comments going on there. It's too far away for me to read clearly, so I'm sorry.
Comments about lag. Yeah, there's audio lag.
Everyone's a technical critic.
Porpoising
through Evendim. Yes, that was fantastic.
And also
it turned out to be slightly faster jumping through the lake than swimming straight across. Of course, nowadays, Evendim in circa 2018, they've got boat travel pretty much everywhere now. Yeah. There are lots of boats all around the outside, so you do.
Were there at the time?
No, I don't think so.
There were some boats.
There might be 1 or 2, but there's a lot more of them now. So you spend a lot less time just tediously swimming across the lake, which that streamlines it a bit. But But yeah, so we're still going. It's still, so it's a quiet, muted, appreciative, nostalgic journey through. It's not a massive, yay, brand new experiences, new game. It's not something I'd actively promote and try and encourage other people to join us, because it's, it's a long haul and it's stuff most people have done to death. But I mean, it's nice that Nick Soy could actually join us now, because you can start at. See, he was in an interesting position because he used a Gift of the Valar to get to the start of Moria, get to 50. I think he's picked a high elf as well. They get fast travel to Lothlorien.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Like, you just go straight to the end of the Mines of Moria content by clicking a button. But they don't get any of the backstory filled in. I think they get some decent gear, and I think they get some points on their virtues and stuff, and they get some occasional swift travel point unlocked. But they don't have like the whole of Volume 1 ticked off as complete. So if he wanted to catch us up while we were halfway through the boring parts of like Volume 1, Book 10, he'd have had to have gone back to Volume 1, Book 1, starting Bree somewhere, pick up with Strider and go all the way through from there, which would take a very long time. So he wasn't able to join us until we actually got started on Volume 2, which was the next available anyone can start here point. So that was a bit of a problem, but we're all on the same page now. But anyone else joining us now would probably have to go back and start from Volume 2 at Moria, and then do a fair bit of homework to catch up, which is not that great, not that fun. So, but yeah, we're going through. It's a slow but steady, cautious optimism. I think I'm still good to get to the end, but I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
It's a terrifyingly large undertaking. Anyone starting Lord of the Rings Online now from scratch, they wouldn't expect to get to Mordor within a year of play, probably.
No.
And that's what other things are like that in recreation, in hobbies? I suppose learning a musical instrument is that kind of thing, isn't it? You pick up, you go to a music shop and buy a violin and think, right, I'm going to learn to play the violin. You wouldn't really expect to be any good within 6 months. But should computer games occupy that kind of commitment space?
You really want to pull on that thread.
Yeah, I know. I'm in danger of unravelling something terrifying there, really. But yeah, so we're sort of on and off on the Saturdays, still pushing through, and I think we'll certainly get to Isengard, if not further. I'd like to at least.
Have any hobbits? Anyway.
No, we're all elves. Okay. All elves this time, in keeping with the last chance to see Middle Earth before we. Yeah. Well, in character, get on the boats and go across the sea to the Sundered Land or whatever, but in meta sense before they shut the game down. Either way, however you want to play it, it just seemed appropriate. So yes, the elves are coming. There's 3 elves just come running in and start throwing spears at everything and blowing stuff up with orbital strikes from the sky. And now we got lightning as well, the old EMP bursts, and it's
very true to the books.
We're quite vengeful elves. Yeah. It's good. We tend to decimate most wildlife that we see and harvest its materials for our own sinister purposes. I think we are the monsters again. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, and that's pretty much my week at the moment. I've got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but another time. Planet Explorers. I'll talk about that another time. Interesting.
Somebody is playing that.
So anything else?
Not really. You could have talked for another 4 minutes.
Oh God,
really
I've
useful.
come in too early.
Usually, I'm having to try and catch your eye to shut you
I thought I'd give you a bit of space, and you turned out not to have played anything again.
I played a bit. I played a bit of Evil Genius, actually.
Evil Genius?
Yeah.
Is that like some sort of exploitative phone reboot?
I played the original Evil Genius.
Wow. Okay. I did like that, but I found it got a bit frustrating. It's a difficult game. I think the main difficulty is because it's a base building RTS where you're a villainous mastermind, and it's great while you're on the first island, but then there's a point about halfway through the game where your base is, for one reason or another, you have to abandon that base and start again on a new base. I think because the hollowed out volcano isn't big enough for your doomsday weapon or something, whatever. But at that point you've got at least 3 of the enemy super agents messing with you at that point, and then it makes you go to a place where you've got no defences, and it's just really awkward at that.
Yeah, the entire balance of the game is slightly wrong.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea.
With everything available.
Yeah,
really, and so there's no feel of progression on your first base. and then afterwards it just goes downhill.
Well, those super agents are a nightmare as well. I mean, I did try a playthrough once that got quite far when I went with Alexis, and her powers are all sort of misdirection and soothing threat bars and stuff. And then if you get a whole load of the concierge ones with the bellhop hats, minions, they're very good at they're basically, they misdirect and confuse investigating enemy agents, and so you can keep your threat really low but still progress very far with the money and everything. So that's sort of oh, for God's sake, you got too much technology in here. But that's a good way to get reasonably far, rather than just going all out straight villain and just trying to fight it all off, fight the incoming soldiers off.
Well, I didn't say my phone is perfectly actually. Just
you got something else that's kicked off here. What's that doing? Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, no, it's interesting.
How far you got?
Oh, not that far. Because
it is a perfect game idea.
It's a brilliant game idea, but yeah, just a flawed game. I remembered it a lot fonder than it actually turns out to be in retrospect.
Because it's an absolute spot-on sort of 60s James Bond sort of thing. The music, the visuals, everything's there. But yeah, the mechanics are quite clunky in a lot of places.
It seems to be just missing something, another layer of game, which nowadays it would have. But yeah, then again, it's old enough to have not known either. So,
be interesting. So you say there's another one coming?
Yeah, they're making a third.
Okay. Was there a two?
Is there a two?
I don't know.
They're making another one.
Yeah.
I thought there was I might be thinking of another
one. Don't know.
Yeah, anyway, they're making another one. It's Rebellion, I believe.
Okay.
Because Rebellion own everything now.
Be interesting to watch, yeah.
Yeah. Not sure when it's coming out. But yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Played that.
Cool.
Yeah, go on to YouTube, watch this video, listen to us on this. So I don't know what to say.
Do you spiel?
No, this feels boring.
You can see us in all manner of ways, including live. Look, hello.
Find everything. Twitch. Had a better time.
Twitch is a thing now.
It's a thing. I don't know if we're going to ever do anything else with it, because it's been a nightmare and it's taken up all afternoon to get working. And I use working in a very, very, very loose term.
It's that level of quality that you've come to expect.
It is definitely the level of quality you've come to expect. And a reliable level of quality as well. We're nothing if not consistent in our inconsistency.
Cool.
So, what have you learned this week?
I've learned that I can't do meringues by hand. You need an electric whisk. There was a terrible cooking experiment. It was.
You actually tried it by hand.
Yeah, well, I haven't got an electric whisk, and I thought I'm not buying an electric whisk just to have a go at meringues. And it was it was just too flat, and it came out really badly in the pan and stuff. And then I had the brilliant idea of, I thought, well, I haven't got a whisk. Let's try putting it in the food processor, and that actually makes it less aerated, beats all the air out, so it just came out as a kind of liquid. It was, oh dear, I made myself a bit ill, and it tasted a lot of raw egg. So I'm quite lucky to be here today, actually.
Yeah. And
what did you learn this week?
I learned that donkey tastes like ham.
Right. Really?
Yeah.
I thought it would taste like chicken.
No, it tastes like ham.
Yeah. Good.
Join us next week for more of the same.
See you later.